Hello, it's A to Z Podcast. Zach Jackson, Andre Knott, A to Z Podcast.com, Facebook.com/A to Z Podcast. Find us on the purple podcast button on Spotify, on all sorts of things. You guys send me questions. You say, what apps are you on? I say, I have no GD idea. But thank you for coming. Thank you for helping this thing grow. Thank you for engaging us on Twitter, on Instagram, at least most of you. Been doing this a long time. We have a lot of fun with it. It's Cleveland Scene, the Honeymoon Grill, and American Fireworks that help make it happen. And the other disclaimer we like to give is sometimes we get excited or sometimes we get angry and we say four-letter words or we venture into mature/immature subjects. So if four-letter words aren't for you, if there's kids around, if you're in a work environment, either put on some earbuds or come back another time or find another podcast. Dre, I'm glad we were able to carve out 30 or so here because for what's traditionally a real quiet time in sports, the final countdown to NFL training camps and baseball kind of inching back in after an extended vacation. There's been a lot going on in sports and in life, and in Cleveland in particular, in Ohio in general. So where would you like to start, buddy? It's your world.
That's a great question. You know what? Let's start in the order of how things have kind of gone down. Let's just go to Cleveland Browns and Josh Gordon, because I want to be short and sweet. I think if you've been an A to Z listener, shout out to our man down in the Columbus area, who always does us right, does us dirty, has the best tweets in the game. You guys haven't followed him the way he deserves to be followed, because he knows us. He actually found the 5 to 11 song and a great quote from a podcast from years ago. I'm gonna be frank about it. I know. Here's the deal: when you talk about Josh Gordon, it seems like you're on one of two sides, and that's unfortunate. It seems like you're either a hater because that's what kids call you, or to me, or you drink the orange Kool-Aid and you just can't see through everything else. I have nothing against Josh Gordon, the person. I want the best in the world for Josh Gordon. I think as an organization and I think as a team, he's brought you more headaches and more problems than he's brought positive for you. I know that doesn't go over very well, and I've said this before, it's a harder brain thing. My heart tells me a guy that continually has problems, continually can't show up, and continually can't be the places that you need him to be for your company to succeed is not helping your company. My heart says, oh, you got to reach out for him, you got to feel bad for him, you got to take care of him. That's not how the real world works. That's just how I feel. I think it's awesome that the Browns care for him the way that they care for him, but his problems are pretty exclusive, people. It's a lot to deal with. He has a lot to deal with and maintain. And I just don't feel like it makes the Browns better to continue to hang on to what is Josh Gordon because we don't know what Josh Gordon is. He's the enigma of enigmas. And if one more person tells me, well, some other team will take him, well, let some other team take him because he's done nothing for the Browns, in my opinion, to make them a winning team or a winning franchise in the 5-6 years he's been there. You can tell me numbers, you can tell me his speed, you can tell me his height, you can tell me all those great things, and it means very little to me because I never know when I'm going to be able to have him on my team and I can trust him. And when you can't trust someone, you can't move forward. And that's in a relationship, that's in a job, and that's in any career that you take on. If my job cannot trust that Andre won't show up to every game, then I can't have my job.
Correct. And although you're right, and he's never done one thing to help him win, at least not for more than one Sunday at a time, they made the commitment on several occasions, but I think most recently, Dre, that they're going to ride. They've come this far, they're going to ride with him. And there are layers to this, and most importantly, as you said pretty darn eloquently, especially by your standards, no one is rooting against Josh Gordon the person. Everyone understands how far he's come. First of all, how much of a miracle it is that he even made it back there last year. It took cooperation by the Browns and the NFL, but it took Josh putting in the work and focusing and doing those things. And, whether it's football or not football, these demons, I can't say we know the depths of them for many reasons. A, they seem pretty deep, and B, the story has always changed, right?
Right.
We don't know that. Nobody's rooting against him. But as I wrote in the first line of my story, the problem with trusting Josh Gordon is that you have to trust Josh Gordon. And you have to trust him to be well and be available, and he hasn't been. So if you want to ignore the past and believe his statement, carefully worded statement, that this is just a temporary setback, that this was part of a plan, hey, Maybe it will be, because in life, like you just said, we don't know what tomorrow will bring, on next Tuesday will bring. And if you followed the Cleveland Browns for 20 years, you sure as shit don't know what tomorrow will bring or next Tuesday will bring.
Right.
But someone in the Athletic comment section said, how can you say this is a familiar story when it's not? Well, how can it not be a familiar story when every single year he's away from the team? When every single year that you trust him and get excited about him, and it ends up that he's not there.
And maybe he misses one day. Maybe he misses a week. Maybe he misses 3 days. But regardless of what it is, he's once again put the question in the back of your head: can I put this offense, build this offense? If you're Haley, can I build 15 plays around this guy to have ready for the first game of the season, or will he be here? That is a distraction that a team that can't win football games can't do. You can't do that when you're trying to dig yourself out of the abyss that the Cleveland Browns are.
Yeah, abyss. God, abyss. That is such a good word. Congrats. That's a great word.
But it is.
No, it is. No, I'm being dead serious. I meant congrats, not congrat.
I know. And I'm saying this with emotion because I get so frustrated hearing fans make excuses and people. Hey, if you feel bad for him, hey, start showing Chevrolet, start showing Ford. They don't sponsor us anymore. They're still family friends, whatever else. They let Josh Gordon. They moved him into their freaking house. They felt bad just like you guys did. They put him in their extra house. They tried to give him a job. They tried to give him some structure in his life. Be one of those people. But what he's doing for the Cleveland Browns is zilch. He's not helping move anything forward. And I would have said this before Monday, to be completely honest. And, Zach, you know that about me.
Yeah, and we just talked about it, right? And we just talked about this a week ago. And this weekend, while I was enjoying my last couple vacation days, and I was seeing the Browns are going to try out this Eli Rogers, a guy who, made the roster in Pittsburgh and showed some promise and got hurt. And I started thinking,
Clemson guy. Is he a Clemson guy?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
All right. Don't matter. I'm sorry.
But here was my thinking. I started thinking about how I would write this or how I would frame, just maybe using it as a note. It's like this, okay, that they would still be trying out guys on the eve of camp, even as a flyer, a guy coming off a torn ACL, a guy who was never a full-time player before, tells you about the uncertainty because all you have is Jarvis Landry, Josh Gordon, and then a bunch of questions. And what you just said is you're trusting Josh Gordon, right? That's just you're counting on Josh Gordon, and you've not been able to count on Josh Gordon. And again, there are demons here. There is a lot at play. There are a lot of people who deserve credit for trying. Josh is one of them. There are steps that I know he has taken to try to clean up his life. And we do not need to play the speculation game, on the rumor game, on all of this, because nobody benefits. But, man, 2 days before report date, he can't do it. You're right, Dre. I cannot disagree. Even though the Browns have made it clear they're going to ride with him, I cannot disagree with your thoughts on this situation one bit.
It's sad. It's sad. But the characteristics of it has been sad for a long time. Nothing has changed.
Yep.
We've done this conversation so many times, and God bless the Browns for being an organization that wants to do that. But the NFL is cutthroat. Pro sports are cutthroat. There are a lot of good people that get cut just because they can't cut it. If you catch my drift.
Hey, you just said it, and this is a perfect bridge to a couple of the other things we're going to talk about. Guys, whether you're in, Dre is right. It's almost exclusively one of two sides with the Josh Gordon argument going back to 2014. Right? Which is a generation, which by Brown standards is 3 regimes ago, but it's a generation by any NFL standard. You're either on one side or the other. But the bottom line is we root for him as you wonder, as you hold out optimism, as you get ready to turn the page. We are looking at and discussing Josh Gordon in a football scope, at least to an extent, because the Browns are a football team that has not won in decades and that needs to get to winning. Right, so we're looking in a football scope. So it's, in a way, even though it's totally some sensitive, crazy, life-wrecking, life-changing stuff that all of us has dealt with some level and can happen to anybody, unfortunately, is happening and can happen to anybody. You're talking about a business and a football team whose business is to get to winning, to get out of the abyss, $20 word, homie, and go forward. And so, you look at decisions are made, and it's nice when it's a heartwarming story of local kid makes good. It's great when loyalty to the organization comes into play, even though that organization was willing to give you $34 million, and the next one would. So spin it how you want. Leadership it up all you want. Cliche it up all you want. Team Instagram it up all you want. Right? These are
Right.
decisions made on finances, but in the context of winning and of that sport: football, basketball, baseball, whatever. And so everyone is rooting for Josh Gordon, the person, and Josh Gordon, the football player, continues to embarrass the Cleveland Browns.
Yes, last thing I'll say on it. Training camp will start this week. Zach will do a decent job, so he gives me an athletic hat. I ain't doing a good job. He'll do the job that he's asked to do. And I want that hat athletic. But here's the thing I'll say that I learned, and I learned how I deal with this in my job still. There'll be 90 guys in Berea. You can say 92, 93, 94, because different guys will shuffle in and shuffle out. The great reporters, you've heard me say this on the Athletic before. You've heard me say this, on this podcast before, and I'll say it again. There are a lot of great people that you will meet with great stories. Some kid gave me shit 3-4 weeks ago about Josh Tomlin, about me, because I got to make funny jokes with him, and I like him as a person. I love him as a person. But because he throws bad pitches and he can't get people out right now, this person thought it would be hilarious to attack me on Twitter because I love Josh Tomlin, the person. That's never means I've not said that Josh is struggling, that Josh needs to throw strikes, and Josh needs to get the ball down. Josh knows that. He's okay with that. He understands that sometimes I got to report about stuff about him, but he's not doing his job because that's my job. He understands that. He's a pro. But my point to all of this is if Zach does his job really well and better than most out there, he will because, well, his competition is his competition. They're going to be 40-some odd guys with great stories and great situations or situations where they can help their mom out or help their dad out or help an ailing sister out or whatever the case may be. Build a house for some families in a struck-down neighborhood or be a good story to go back to a neighborhood that doesn't have a lot of good stories. And you know what's going to happen come the end of August, beginning of September? Those good stories, because they can't help the team win games, are going to be told, hey, man, thanks for everything you've given us. Good luck in life. Good luck in taking care of your family and doing what you need to do. But you can't help the Cleveland Browns become a winning organization. At some point in time, I think Josh Gordon needs that same talk.
That's right. That's right. One quick transition. I just want to share this. Maybe we'll come back to football. Maybe we won't. It is Tuesday afternoon as we record this. The Browns veterans are due in on Wednesday. The top two picks remain unsigned, presumably because of offset language. The number 3 pick is also unsigned. There's some other stuff.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about
But I was digging out some numbers, Dre, as I was finishing my camp preview story today. And as you said, depending on the various clearances and roster designations and everybody actually showing up or being available, Thursday afternoon they'll be out there with 85 or so guys on the field, right? Right as of this second, almost 50 and maybe 50 exactly of those guys were not on the active roster at any point last season. So this is a brand fucking new team. Yeah. So it's just a stat I want to make sure I want to share. Yep.
Got to start fresh sooner or later. Hey, that offset thing that I just did, I know you're serious. That's a big part of contracts. But,
that's like a rapper or something, Offset?
Yeah. So there'll be people that will laugh.
Is he in Wiz Khalifa? I heard Wiz was at Blossom the other day.
Yeah, Wiz is hot again.
No, remember 2 years ago when I remember my buddy's kids were going to Wiz Khalifa at Blossom, and they were like, do you want to go? And I was laughed, and they were like serious, and I was like, no. And then when I found out that Snoop opened for Wiz Khalifa, that's when I retired from rap music forever. I was done. Like, seriously.
I didn't even realize it. Man, we're washed. Let's be the first to say it. We're washed, but we're okay with it. Before we get to our love story and get out of here, let's go to Columbus first. I like asking Jackson stuff. I want my fucking head athletic. I've heard some people question whether I'm not going to go to the first question. I'm gonna bury the lead. I've heard some people think that Ohio State may have problems winning their side of the bracket this year. Do you agree with that?
Well, on paper,
and Penn State?
On paper, from Urban's mouth, from the Phil Steele magazine, all this, it's as loaded as any division in the country, and Penn State has really come on, even though they lost a lot of headline guys. Michigan State, who we know just a couple years removed from the playoff, had a down year. You know what you're going to get from them when they have a good team. And then you have Michigan, which obviously has not recruited as well as Ohio State, but has some headline guys and has been in games and hasn't had a quarterback. And now in Shea Patterson, it looks like they have a quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, we'll talk some college football with some people who know more. But for me, spending an hour a day over the last couple weeks with the Phil Steele magazine and tracking Twitter and just knowing what people got coming back, like going out to Penn State for Pro Day, Dre, like to see Saquon Barkley and Hamilton and all those, and I think they had a bunch of guys get drafted, but a bunch of the dudes standing there watching Pro Day look like they're ready to. And like I said, we know what Michigan State has been in their good years. And this defensive lineman that Michigan has is a top 10 guy. Last year, they had lost like 19 guys, so it was a pretty young team, and the offense faltered. They played terrible quarterbacks. Well, all those guys are gone, and if Shea Patterson's in and they're making plays, then that's a dangerous, dangerous team.
Yeah, but we know what Urban Meyer brings in the cupboard. He reloads, and that's not really the story. I wanted to talk about. I wanted to do that Big Ten conference. That the story is, and really this is you know what? It's an Ohio State story right now, but it's more or less it's a 2018 story. I personally, and I don't know a lot about this, but I personally don't think this is news to the Ohio State coaching staff that their wide receiver coach has had some issues with his ex-wife. The police have been called different times. The guy's been known to get in squabbles on Twitter with high school athletes. He's always kind of carried himself a little bit differently. Knowing that he was Earl Bruce's grandson and knowing the importance of Earl Bruce to Urban Meyer. And at this time, it's 3:10 on Tuesday. I don't know exactly what Urban Meyer said today in Chicago. I'm sure I saw your tweet. I'm sure he won't say anything too much about the situation. To me, this happens in companies all the time, right? You get somebody that's a little bit closer to the CEO. The CEO kind of looks the other way and doesn't hold them accountable like he would everybody else because he's a close family friend or because he is family. But once it gets to a point that you no longer can I don't know, what's the word I want to say? I don't want to say hide. Or you can no longer tolerate their emotions and things they do, you let them go. But the problem is with this is that you're in the national scope, and everybody has the opportunity now to judge you and put this upon. Urban Meyer runs dirty programs, or he runs his own thing, and he knew this guy was a bad guy the whole time. I just think this is what happens in businesses daily, whether it's your local, car dealership, your local Starbucks, or your local lawyer firm. I think this happens more than we all want to admit.
Well, sure. I mean, the first problem is the alleged, and it is still alleged, the alleged act itself, absolutely. Right? But you're
right, absolutely.
But the next problem is there are two allegations over long periods of time, both of when he was on Urban's staff. And what Urban said this morning is he knew of the first one, and he said he campaigned for it to be not dismissed, but forgiven. Young couple, whatever. I mean, this is what Urban said. If Urban's hiding anything, then that's bad. That's bad because this is one of the worst things you can participate in. I am not of the opinion that it being brought to light over the past several years is a bad thing, like some of you online tough guys are. That goes for some other things that Mr. Winston has been associated with. But this is a bad look for everybody, but most especially Zach Smith himself. And for it to be withheld, assuming that it was, for it to happen, assuming that it did, then dismissal is the way to go. And I'll say this.
Well, okay.
Over the course of Monday, I thought this just from following along as I was working a little bit and driving a little bit. This being a bigger story than the Josh Gordon thing took me a little bit by surprise, but I think it tells you A, the magnitude of Urban Meyer and Ohio State football, and B, when you can't get caught.
Allegations like this.
Yeah, right. You cannot. This is one of the. What is it? The old school, the 7 deadly sins. Like this is one of the things you can't do, and you can't. And if you're accused of it, and you didn't do it, you can't hide it from your boss, right? Or pay the price.
You can't. Yeah, you can't. I got a daughter, as you guys know. I got a son, and I saw a little kid a couple days ago squirt water at my daughter. They're both little kids. The blood boiled in me like it never has. I couldn't do anything to a little kid. I just don't want to see my daughter get, and it's like I said, it's kids playing. And it's completely different. My point is I am very protective over my daughter, over my sisters. I get it. Why this is a big deal in our society right now. Everybody deserves complete respect. But I'm not an Urban Meyer apologist. I don't think Urban Meyer walks on water. I know that he's not the perfect person. He hasn't ran the perfect programs. I saw Marcellus Wiley say this, and I completely agree with him. We need a 30 for 30 on that Florida team, the Gators team that had Aaron Hernandez, had Tim Tebow. We need a 30 for 30.
The Pounceys.
Joe Hayden, the Pounceys, Joe Hayden.
Riley Cooper.
We need a 30 for 30.
Cam Newton temporarily.
Yes. Keep going. We need a 30 for 30 on that team. I mean, in like 4 parts. Forget what we had with the U. We need to know about that Florida team that was down in Gainesville and how the hell they were able to stay eligible and win. Because it was obviously a lot going on. But I will say this, and I know some people won't like that I'm going to say this, and I'm not saying that Urban Meyer told the truth today, but going off of what you said, things do happen between young couples. Things happen between couples, period. And sometimes it needs to be reported to the police and taken care of through the police. And sometimes it's just two people that need to sit down and mature and learn how to act. And I'm not, now if somebody gets hit, that's different. But arguments happen between couples. Disagreements happen between couples. And not to sound like Charlemagne the God, most people won't know what that means, but the people that do will laugh.
Mostly me, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's why I had to put that disclaimer in. Things happen in relationships. You're going to have disagreements. You may yell. So if Urban Meyer, if that's the truth from Urban Meyer, and I fully, but I think most of us that have been in relationships, there are couples that are in loving relationships. You have disagreements with people, and sometimes, and when you're young, a little different on how you control your emotions. And let's be honest, when it's a family friend or somebody that's part of your family, the benefit of the doubt is going to go that way, and you're going to probably tell Shelly, "Hey, why don't you go talk to his wife, see what's really going on." Now, this is what I would do personally. I don't know if that happened, but I know if I'm in Urban Meyer's situation and I feel this strongly about this kid, I would have said, he's not a kid, he's a man. I would have said to my wife, because usually wives in the coaching fraternity, they kind of take care of the wives. That's what I'm around it and see it all the time. The wives kind of, the manager or coach's wives, they kind of take care of the players' wives. They keep everything orderly. And they kind of find out if there's issues or if my husband needs to talk to this person or that person. I don't know if Urban Meyer did that. Shelly Myers put herself out there big time and who she is and what she stands for in their family. So I would hope and wish that they know truly what did happen. Because if you truly care about players and you truly care about your coaching staff, I think that's what good coaches do.
Yeah, but in this case, we got documented orders of protection filed in a second allegation many, many years later. So,
right.
You know, we're nobody's jury, mostly because we don't get up before 9 unless we have to. But
I ain't going on no jury either. I'm gonna act like I'm crazy if you try to put me on one.
You ever had jury duty?
No, man. I don't want to talk about it because it'll happen. I haven't. Have you?
Well, I've been called. I've gotten the letter or whatever a few times. One time I actually moved before my time was up, so I didn't have to do it. Another time it was like for 2 weeks, and they never called me in. One time I had to go in. I mean, I was young, like real young 20s, and I actually got called in one day of my 5 or 8, whatever you're on for, and sat in there. And I remember falling asleep in the room, and like the judge coming in and screaming at me to wake up, and then basically saying,
"That's one way not to have to do it."
Yeah, basically saying, "Thank you guys for coming today and your patience." And they took my advice and settled out of court, so go home. So no, I've never actually participated in it, but I've been called to serve several times. So
not the type of news that you want with the season getting underway. Mr. Smith, I hope you get whatever issues you got going on taken care of, and I hope his family they figure it out, because this is not a positive thing for any family, whether you're a football coach or whether you're a postman.
Yeah, and look, I brought up Jameis, and I've been wanting to say this, Trey, for since a couple weeks ago when all this came out. But we've been talking about other stuff. Like, we tell you guys all the time, you know, when you tell us you like the podcast because we keep it real, we appreciate that because we do. We come on, we tell our jokes, and they're not all great, and we rip on each other, and sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not, sometimes it reaches a wide audience, sometimes it's not. Some of my pairs of shorts are wider than others, whatever. The list goes on. But, like, when we're talking about this stuff, we're talking about real people, right? Zach Smith's a real person. Urban Meyer maybe not a real person. I don't know. Jury's out on that. But Josh Gordon, a real person, obviously real troubles. And so one thing we're always careful of is when you use words like stupid and idiot, like, you got to be careful, right? Like,
For sure.
It was real stupid of a team to turn down that trade, right? It was a real idiotic decision by that point guard to not shoot the three and drive it into traffic, right?
Right.
But to actually label, you got to do that. But, Jameis, I know you're not listening, but, man, you're an idiot, and you have got to stop. You've got to stop. There's track record of not just bad decisions and not just idiotic decisions, but there's a long track record of things involving you not respecting women, not respecting people in general, not respecting your position. I think the Bucks did a great job, and Jameis hopefully did a great job of staying out of the spotlight. But then this suspension came about because of outright lies and things tied to the same shit that he's always done. Wrong place, wrong time, not respecting women, being real dumb. And guys, this is not about a movement or what side you're on of some other crap. This is about being a human being. And
right and wrong.
And he has been an idiot too many times. So I would say, even though none of what he's done is right, and none of Florida State's soft-ass, fake-ass penalties obviously fazed him over the years, I did hear in researching this that he's given up alcohol. So whether that's an excuse or a crutch or not, hopefully he's realizing, not just what he's gambling as far as his career and the money that he stands to make as an NFL quarterback signing his second contract, but just in terms of being a better person and not being a fucking idiot. I hope that he can do that. I really do.
Hey, Wordsmith, I got to ask a question.
Yep.
If I want to call him the worst, is that worse or worse?
That's worst. Superlative. With a T.
Hey, I knew the answer. I was just being
Well, I don't know. I was pretty proud of that tweet this morning, I got to say.
Of course you were. That's what you get off on. That's what and that's the best part of it. You get off of that. I go back to eat my cornflakes and give you a little finger.
All right. Speaking of cornflakes, I know we only got 5 more minutes. Level of jaw and cornflakes hitting the floor late this morning when you saw Kevin Love sign a $120 million deal with the Cavs.
Oh, milk on the floor. But I want to say something about this quickly. I'm glad you brought that up and you said that, and I'll be quick with this. We talked about the Josh Gordon situation. Think about the situation that the Tampa Bay Bucks are currently in. Because when you see your quarterback and you make it your franchise quarterback, you build everything about your team, your identity around that person. And Tampa Bay, congrats. You built yourself around a person that you thought you could trust. He's an untrustworthy human being at this point in time, in my estimation. And he's made some of the worst decisions that you could possibly make. Because you talk about respecting women and respecting his, he doesn't respect himself. When you continually lie and do what he's done, it's a damn shame. And if the Tampa Bay Bucks, his contract's getting ready to be up shortly. So, I think about how many lives are in his hands in the decision-making that he makes. Whether it's the head coach, whether it's the groundskeeper, whether it's the doctors, the general manager, the president, all their lives and all their kids' lives are balanced off can he make good decisions in his life. And he can't, or he hasn't so far. And that's a damn shame that he doesn't understand the power that he has within himself to make so many other lives better, and he just can't do it. It's eye-opening. I'll watch that situation very closely. Yeah. Kevin Love's situation. Milk all over the floor. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do. We talk about loyalty in sports. We talk about people. We talk about the Kirby Puckett, Cal Ripkins of the world. Yeah, I brought up Kirby Puckett because I like. God rest his soul. He's a Hall of Famer.
Only black people in Minnesota's Prince of Kirby Puckett. Go ahead. And I know that Kevin Love played in Minnesota previously.
we had the Mount Rushmore talk, about LeBron leaving, not having Kyrie. And we know it's not our thing, but we can still use it because we can do it better than them. I don't know if I'm texting Zach, so he knows I'm asking this. Hey, good move, good PR move by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Good way to get some positive spin on an offseason that's tough when you lose the all-time Cleveland Cavalier, and you may not ever get him back. Is Kevin, if I make a four-headed Mount Rushmore of Cleveland Cavaliers, is he on your Mount Rushmore Cavaliers?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about value in that championship, I mean, there's only been really 3 great eras of Cavs basketball, right?
Right.
The one probably had more All-Stars, and it certainly looked at differently by me because it was 10 to 13-year-old me, rather than old crotchety me.
Right. Well, and let me say something. You got to think about the Richfield Coliseum ones when we weren't alive.
Yeah. This contract gives him a chance to be that. Here's the thing. This was a goodwill gesture by the Cavs, okay? Both to the fans and to the community and to Kevin Love. Because, frankly, Kevin Love, on the market 11 months from now, was not getting anywhere near this money. He was going to get a lot of money. He's a unique basketball player. He's a skilled basketball player. He's an accomplished NBA player. He wasn't going to get this elsewhere, so let's not get that twisted up with the feel-good vibes. Is it great that he wants to remain a Cav? Sure. Is there a scenario under which the Cavs rebuild their own big 3, and 2 years from now he is one of those 3? Sure. And when you're Cleveland, when you're a small market team, or organically, you're going to have to get 2 of your 3, if not 3 of your 3, right?
Right.
So this is just curious because we know what's hanging out there for the Cavs. A rebuild on some level. They're saying it's not going to be an all-out tank. However, we know if the Cavs don't finish in the bottom 10 that the Hawks get their pick. And the Cavs have some flexibility with George Hill imminently, with there being a market for Korver, although that's not going to bring you in, and then eventually contracts like JR's and Tristan's and Clarkson's either come off the books or look real nice to teams that are trying to empty their books. So we will see, and although it's not entirely surprising they wouldn't go with the rebuild or the complete teardown, and that's happened to mixed results. This was a milk on the floor for me, even though I wasn't eating cereal at the time as well, because not surprised that they would bring him back in some form or fashion, but to do it now just screams goodwill gesture. And maybe they'll win another championship, because let's just be honest, not to steal his line from tomorrow's show, but Raj made a great point. They could get C.J. McCollum and have him, Love, and Colin Sexton and whoever else is great and maybe never win a championship. They could have a great run as far as Cavs basketball. You can't frame everything in the course of winning a championship because A, right now there's one team winning the championship, and B, like, there's ways to have other runs. It just was curious to me that right now with the state of the Cavs and so many question marks that you wanted to lock in Kevin Love, who's about to be on the wrong side of 30 at that number for that one.
Thank you. And he struggled with injuries, and I don't want to be Nelly negative, but I like Kevin Love. I got nothing against Kevin Love. I don't think he has a position in the way the game is played unless the Cavaliers – and maybe they do this now without LeBron, without Kyrie. I think Kevin Love's one of those guys you have to – and this, hey, sports is like this. In football and baseball, or football and basketball, sometimes you have to dictate your offense differently and run certain things to really show if someone can give you 20 and 15. I think you got to do that with Kevin Love at this point in his career. He's not showing a lot of athleticism, a lot of speed. I think Ty Lue was trying to pigeonhole him into being a center, trying to take advantage of his shooting. Big man, and this is my opinion, when you watch how he uses him, he played better in the playoffs when they put Tristan next to him and let him play the 4. I think he's more comfortable playing the 4, but I don't think he fits against most 4s the way the game is played now. But that's still here nor there, and that's why I cringe at giving a guy like that type of money. But he was going to get money. God bless him. He was a part of the championship. He gives good feels. There are a lot of people around the city of Cleveland. And you know what? I don't know how true this is, and somebody please tell me. I know that there was a tweet out that Dan Gilbert made people that sit on the floor renew their tickets for a couple more years before the season was over. If that's true, Dan Gilbert did the best thing he could to those people that have to have season tickets. He gave them a player that they know that they can be there. It's a good, like you said. But I think basketball-wise, I question it a little bit. That's just me being me. I love the thing that Lima brought up. I would love to see that type of team. I personally would have no problem with seeing a quality 82 basketball game, and maybe you get knocked out in the first or second round and become the Indiana Pacers, as Pete said. I think that's okay. Like you said,
Yeah.
the group of guys we grew up. Like you said, the group of guys we grew up with, they never got to the conference finals, but they were great basketball, and they gave us something to do on a December night. I would love to take my nephews and my niece and my kids to a game in January. I think we've lost championship, and look, there's nothing wrong with it, but we lose focus on what these games really are at some points in time. Yes, you want to be a champion. Yes, you want to have the parade. Yes, you want to be able to wear the nice jackets and shoes and get the fake rings like you actually did something when you did. But really, what it comes down to is having some nice entertainment and a positive story to break you away from your everyday life. So if that's the Cavs are trying to put together, then God bless them. I hope it works out.
You got to spend the money, and a hometown overspend is not new, and it's not going away. I would say the new NBA, Dre, moves are being made a year before free agency, right? One way or the other.
Got to. Right.
I mean, we'll leave you on this. There's a big questions from a lot of angles on whether pushing in on Kevin Love rather than pushing out, even a 70% trade value, ultimately will become the thing, and we can't answer that right now for many reasons. One being that it's late July, and two being that we don't know what the next 6 Cavs moves are going to be. When LeBron left, it left kind of a blank slate. It was certainly a different slate, but it left kind of a blank slate, and this is an interesting one. We'll let you get to work, Dre. I got to go myself. So shout out to you guys for listening. Shout out to Scene, to Honeymoon Grill, to American Fireworks, AmericanFireworks.com. Sign up for The Athletic. Follow us there. We'll be doing another podcast when we can. Where do the Indians go after this, after tomorrow?
We go to Detroit.
All right, gosh.
I'm not going to Friday. Well, I'll talk to you. Go to Detroit, Minnesota.
All right, well, we'll figure it out. Thanks for listening. See you next time on A to Z.
Konnichiwa, jackass.